Yes, 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 guys. Welcome back to Box Football. And surprisingly, of me and Jack are back. I'm like, what? These guys? Do they even exist anymore? But yeah, you know what? Life is life, and a lot of stuff going on. But just with all the footballs going on, we might as well talk about it. We might as well talk about my team. Yeah, unfortunately, it's been a frustrating transfer window, but we seem to have a bit of movement. For either frustrating or happy, there is movement. So let's talk about it, Jack. So today, Arsenal have agreed. No, Arsenal have signed Zubimendi from Real Sociedad for 51 million. If I'm getting that right, you're also apparently really high in advanced talks with Gokeres, which is something that puts a smile on my face. And the one that has every Arsenal fan scratching their head is the fact that we are close or we have agreed to sign Noni Madueke and we just have to agree on a deal with Chelsea. But he, as a player, has agreed to join Arsenal. Now, let's break this down and see where Arsenal are and where does this put Arsenal in terms of view of the title race and going forward. Jack, with these three players right now that Arsenal have signed, plus the other ones, Norgard and Kepa, how are you feeling about this whole Arsenal melee of transfers?
Well, first of all, I think you would know better than me, but just from the outside looking in, I think you're signing in positions where you need players, right? I get the sense that somebody like a Thomas Partey going, right? And then also just a little bit of support in midfield, the likes of Zubimendi, which you imagine comes in as a starter immediately, and Norgard, who kind of plays that Thomas Partey kind of role a little bit in the squad, that works, right? You've got an upgrade to your starting midfield and you have a little bit of cover as and when you need it. Noni Madueke, I know we talked just prior to starting here. If you told me that my football team, their backup right winger is Noni Madueke, I'm pretty happy with that. My team's in pretty good shape if Noni Madueke is my backup right winger. That would be my takeaway. If you said to me, he's starting, we're going to ship Saka out, Noni Madueke is going to be our guy, question marks, I have concerns. But if Saka pulls a hamstring or does his ankle or whatever, and you've got Noni Madueke for 5 or 6 games, I don't think that's too much of a drop off as maybe what it would have been last season, where somebody like a who's your Belgian guy you got from Brighton?
Leandro Trossard.
Yeah, somebody like Trossard coming in. I think Madueke, just in terms of his profile and the way he's going to play, I think he fills in really nicely. And then the biggest thing that Arsenal have been crying out for forever is, I mean, a much, a bigger upgrade, I would say, on the left wing. But James, a striker. And, we'll, I guess, get into the kind of bigger news now. Viktor Gyokeres, I think in Europe's top five leagues, it's more goals than anyone else. So and we can debate the quality of the Portuguese league, the player, the background, all this stuff. But you have definitively signed the guy who's putting up the most numbers in Europe's top five leagues. Now, whether it works or not, I had it mentioned to me the other day. A lot of modern strikers are you're buying a ticket to a raffle, right? And maybe your ticket hits, maybe it doesn't. You could get a Darwin Nunez, you could get a Rasmus Højlund, or you could get an Alexander Isak type of player. What you do have to do, though, you have to put the money up. You have to say, based on our scouting, based on our data requirements of what we want from a forward to lead the line, this is the guy who we're going to go for. And I think you have to take the risk. I would be amazed if you and I aren't here next season, similar time, going, he scored at least 15 Premier League goals. At least 15 Premier League goals. The upside is you do have a top two or three scorer in the whole league, which, James, let's be honest, might be the difference between Arsenal winning a title.
Like,
Sorry, I went on for a bit there, but that's kind of my
no,
whole
no, 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 no.
process.
Jack, listen, I feel like you kind of softened my blow a little bit with the whole Nani Madueke thing. Because in my mind, when I see it, you guys probably, if you have me on Instagram or Twitter, I was scratching my head, Nani Madueke. And the reason behind that, Jack, is that when Arsenal are looking to sign players, I'm looking to hear first Eze is going to go through the door. I'm looking to hear first Rodrigo, who looks like he's going to be pushed out. That's what I want to hear. Yeah, when Arsenal fans hear Nani Madueke, we're scratching our head thinking we want players who are going to get us to win a league, to win a Champions League. Noni Madueke isn't going to be that. But I think you softened the blow for me when I kind of sit there and be a tad bit more logical about it. Last season with Saka going out, yeah, it made it really difficult to find a replacement in there. Having to chop and change, Martinelli going in there, Trossard going in here. Now we have somebody who's naturally left-footed, likes to come inside, can also score with his right foot. I kind of get it, but it just doesn't excite me because Jack, we've seen it with the whole Chelsea thing before. The Raheem Sterling thing, which I was screaming for, it just didn't work out there. David Luiz, ugh, Peter Cech, ugh. It's almost like even Kai Havertz to a certain point, ugh. As Arsenal fans, you're sick of it, just signing Chelsea players, and it's this weird thing that we just keep on seeing. And to me, it just doesn't succeed. And the worst thing for me is that we're giving Chelsea money to go
Yeah,
fund other
yeah.
players that could get them closer to us. I'm like, do we really want to do that? You know?
The thing, can I just draw one distinction? Because I get the whole Arsenal frustration thing. I believe me, I get it. Czech was how old when you signed him? Sterling was how old when you signed him? David Luiz was how old when you signed him? Noni Madueke is 23. Um, he's going to be an England international, you'd imagine, for the next 8 to 10 years, or at least he's going to be in the conversation of being in that squad for the next however long. It's a lot of money to spend potentially like a backup right winger. But if and time time could move on and we could be talking about Saka doing all sorts of different stuff, or Madueke goes on to do this, or a new manager comes in, and there's a lot that can happen. But if we pretend that Saka's your starting right winger, Madueke is your backup right winger, if that looks like that for the next 8 to 10 years, even though the fee looks quite big, I'd say as an investment, that's pretty solid. And again, I hear you because maybe you'd rather that money go on a different position of lead, or if the bank account's getting a little small and there's not enough room there for somebody like Eze, you might feel a bit disappointed. But I'll be honest,
Jack,
I'm very okay with the Madueke signing. I think it's not very sexy, but I think it's smart.
Jack, just moving on to the Gyökeres deal, and I feel like for Arsenal fans, it's just we're in July, and you kind of I think the first thing we were expecting when the transfer window opened was Arsenal to get a striker done, and the fact that we're sitting there every single week, it's Sesko, um, Gyökeres. Somehow Jackson floats in there. You're sitting there, you're scratching your head thinking, get something done. We're getting
Right.
closer. We're getting closer to the league and to finally hear that we're going to land somebody, and not just somebody who's an out and out goal scorer. Jack, when was the last time we had that? Aubameyang has been gone for 2, 3 seasons now. We haven't had a killer in front of goal in a while, and the difference between that, us having the killer, not having the killer, is winning a trophy. When Aubameyang was there, he literally at a point dragged us to an FA Cup. Yeah, and maybe Gyökeres, with all the chances we create, with all the XG that we create, with all the touches inside the box that we create, he can be that man. I look at him, and I probably need to study more of his style play, but he's a guy who loves to run the channel. So yeah, players like Odegaard, players like, for instance, Gabriel Martinelli, if they can slide that ball into him, Jack, he seems to have that killer instinct in there. And I'm looking forward to seeing him. I want to see a striker who we can give the ball into with a player or two in front of him can shift and score. Yeah, we've been the private eye. Bamiyang, since Robin van Persie, we've been the private eye. Giroud, lovely player, but didn't really quite give us that. Lacazette didn't really quite give us that. This guy looks to be something special. Now, the caveat of it, as you know, Jack plays in the Portuguese league, but at the same time, Jack, he also played Champions League football. I think he was top goal scorer in the Champions League. Scored a hat trick against Chester City. Is doing it
Yeah.
at a high level for Sweden. So you have to cut the guy slack, and if we
Yeah.
sign him and get him through the door, I think that's a brilliant sign from him. The only player I'll probably pick ahead of him to sign him, two players, is Isak and Osimhen, but obviously those look completely out of the water right now.
The one thing I want to check, and I'm sorry if this takes some time, I do want to check his XG. And I
Now,
know you might roll your eyes at that bit and be like, "Oh my God, what are you talking about?" But I do
Jack knows
think
what I'm
it's
like.
kind of, I
Yeah,
know, but I do think it's kind of important. So James, right? Okay. So his non-penalty XG was
yeah.
21.4. Okay. The previous year was 18.7. The previous year it was 16.4, and the previous year was 18.4. That's without penalties as well, right? That's good. And that's not everyone. I think I see a lot of stuff on the internet about, oh, he just had one really good season. I actually don't think that's true. I think he's been playing at a pretty good level for at least 3 or 4 years, especially based on that XG. He does score a lot of penalties, but again, if that XG is between 16 and 18, and he's pretty consistently outperforming his XG in terms of the amount of goals he scores, that means he's a good finisher, and that means he will take his chances. The other reason why I like it, he's a big body as well. So like I think there can be this whole thing of if somebody gets quite lucky in a league where he's not being physically challenged very much, it can be a concern. I know we can call Darwin Nunez like a flop and whatever and all this kind of stuff, and I'm not trying to draw a massive comparison to him, but Darwin Nunez is still a threat. I still think when he comes on, you're a bit like, man, he's disruptive, he's doing something, Jesus, I think it could really work out with Gyökeres. And like I said, I think the minimum he'll get next season is 15 goals. And James, if he hits it
Yep.
right and he's got the right people feeding him, you could have the mid to high 20s in terms of goals. And like you've said, Arsenal are in win now mode. Arsenal are in win now mode. Some people might say win yesterday, win whatever. Liverpool was a bit of a freak season last season. But James, Arsenal have to win a league, and this is the way you win a league. So
All right.
if I were you, I'd be excited.
Okay. Okay, Jack. So just to segue for the last 2 minutes. With these two signs of Zubimendi, obviously Norgard Kepa's already come in, and Madueke, and now Gyökeres. Does that put Arsenal past this Man City, who've already done a lot of business this year, and Liverpool? Yeah. Are we over? Are we over those two teams going? I'm going into the start of the title race.
I I don't know, and I'll tell you why. Every single Liverpool transfer has been a starter of really, really high caliber. You'd argue in the right back position in an attacking sense, arguably the best player in the world to potentially sign for Liverpool would be Jeremy Frimpong, and that's who they signed. As an attacking midfielder, if you wanted to go, oh, who's probably the best attacking midfielder in the world that we could potentially sign? Florian Wirtz is that guy. And Milos Kerkez is probably in the top, I would say, 10 left backs in the world. And he's really young and can just get better and better. So Liverpool's transfer window so far has been so good. And James, the crazy thing about Liverpool, because they've not spent like crazy, crazy money over the past couple of years, they could get an Ekitike, they could get a Seshko, they could get an Osimhen or somebody like that. And that to me just puts them way over, especially retaining Salah, retaining Van Dijk. You've completely replaced your two fullbacks with absolute superstars. You've got a 10 who can do anything, and you sign a striker.
Jack,
Oh
you
my
got meant
God.
to make me feel good and be like, oh yeah,
I
Arsenal can't
know,
have a
I know,
chance,
no.
but
I, I think it's really close. I think those three teams are really close. Then the only other thing that I'll throw in, and you know this better than anyone, who is going to have a serious point to prove next season based on how badly they did last year? Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola's got Tijani Reinders from Milan, who's been amazing. Ryan Shirky, some of the best value for money that there's been. Who else have they got? There's I had it up a second ago. Give me 2 secs. Man
well,
City. Ryan Eight Nuri, right? I think the four centre backs playing in a back four is done, by the way. He's going back to using full backs, I would guess. So I think it's really, really close. But I think Arsenal are doing all the right things that they can be doing to put themselves in a position to succeed.
Jack, as of now, no. I think we're still far off Liverpool. There was a big gap last season, and what Liverpool added to the squad and what they've retained, there's still a huge gap. Now, if we can add this plus a Rodrigo and an Eze, we can have a whole different conversation, a
The left
serious,
wing,
serious conversation.
left wing's crazy. I want to let you talk about this, but if I were an Arsenal fan, I think a striker is really important. But having much more of a goal output and a threat from that left wing spot is
Oh, Jack, this is
crazy to
everything,
me. I, I
everything.
have I have I've got a lot of Arsenal friends who I play football with, and we make this joke about like, oh man, maybe they should just bring Nico Williams off the bench, and then we all make this joke about like, no, that was somebody they should have signed 18 months ago, or however long. To me, that left winger spot, whether it's a Rafael Leao, a Nico Williams, or whoever, I just think I like Martinelli, but I'd put Martinelli in the same ballpark as Madueke. I'd be thrilled if that was my backup, but that shouldn't be a starter. That shouldn't be a starter, and that's a glaring hole for me.
Jack, as I said, as important as the striker is to me, signing a right winger is signing a left winger is as important. If we can get
I
those two,
agree.
and not just Jack, I'm not talking about just any player. I'm talking about a Rafael Lila, as you said, a Nico Williams, a Rodrigo, who I'm
Right.
just begging to happen. If that comes
Yeah.
through the door with Gyökeres already there, Saka hopefully fit for a whole season, and obviously as a challenging um Mount Odegaard, Arsenal go from being, I don't know, 7 points or 10 points away from Liverpool to then we're going neck and neck with you from start to finish. And it's a must. It's an absolute must. But Arsenal fans, let me know what you think about Noni Madueke. What you think about Zubamendi, Gyökeres. Let us know everything
The
you think
same.
about all these transfers. And can Arsenal win the league? Comment down below, like, share, and subscribe to Jack and James, and we will see you guys next time.